Hello and welcome to Media 7 Summer Editions. This week we take a close look at the challenging editorial call in the holiday season and talk to an award-winning journalist who is departing the trade for a part-time job in politics. But first, it's time for a news mash. Gaza is in flames. The global economy is still in meltdown. But in other news, the presidential daughters started at their new school in Washington.
Oh yeah, that's always a tough thing at that age.
So they got to be nervous today.
Cue mindless US TV news orgy.
Oh, that is an adorable shot.
It was, if nothing else, great fodder for The Daily Show.
That blue stuffed animal keychain hanging off her backpack, it's an ugly doll.
Even MSNBC has to have its limits.
That's true, or ours.
Don't they?
Check out what they're serving for lunch today. Malia at the upper school can offer tomato basil soup,
Nice.
various salads, Philly cheesesteaks, right on.
All right, I guess that's a little excessive, but I guess you can excuse a one-day glimpse at the kids' menu.
Tomorrow's menu, a decidedly Mexican flair.
Oh, Betty and Veronica, you disappoint me.
A man is feared drowned after he fell out of his dinghy on a fishing trip in the Manukau harbour last night.
But sometimes real news does lie within families. Drownings and deaths on the roads, tragic at any time of the year, take on a particular resonance in the holiday season.
I'm really saddened because that's people's lives, people's families.
And one family tragedy, the loss of young Warriors player Sonny Fai to the treacherous surf of Bethel's Beach after he'd saved his brother and his cousin, was reported as far afield as Europe.
Nearly 24 hours after the accident happened, there's still no sign of the rising sports star.
He played a big and important part in our lives, and Sonny didn't believe in independence. He believed that family was key first.
Fai's sister says he also described the Warriors as his family.
Just a lot of disbelief, really, and certainly a lot of just a lot of feeling of absolute loss and devastation.
But not all the coverage was equal. Thanks to a cameraman who happened to be at the beach, 3 News had video that captured the shock, confusion and grief as the young man's friends and family grasped that he was gone. Did the coverage go too far? Or was it simply a case of pictures that told a story that words could not? Angus Gillies was in editorial charge of TV3's newsroom when those pictures from Bethel's Beach came in. He's with us now to talk about what happened between that time and the 6 p.m. news bulletin. G'day Angus.
How are you?
Now let's start with the source of the pictures. This wasn't your cameraman, but it wasn't Joe Public with a mobile phone either, was it?
No, it was a cameraman who is a trained cameraman, a professional cameraman, working freelance, who had just got a new camera and had gone to the beach to test it out and started shooting it and playing with the settings and, trying to get different they look like arty shots, very good shots, and basically just shot what was happening in front of him.
The cameraman still has no idea of the scale of the tragedy taking place. He plays with the settings on his new camera, trying to get the most interesting shots, totally unaware how poignant they'll seem tonight.
So when did you see the pictures? The drowning happened late on the Sunday. Did you see them Monday morning?
Well, no. It was we already had our coverage set up. Early on Monday we heard about Sonny Fai, and we decided we were going to go quite big on this story and we'd lead with it. And so we already had a main story, a live cross into and out of that main story, plus a live cross to the newsroom with a rugby league expert, Sam Ackerman, all set up. Then I think it might have been about 3:30.
So it was quite late in the day?
3:30, yeah. We heard from, I heard from our Chief of Staff who does the assignments, and she said, hey look, we've got a guy ring in, he's got some pictures. He talked to a cameraman that used to work with us, and they contacted us. And I just said, oh look, tell him to bring him in and we'll have a look.
Did you pay for these pictures?
Yeah, we did pay for them. Yeah, he was a freelancer, and he said that he, wanted to be paid for them if we were interested in them, and if we want any pictures, we'll pay for them, as far as from a freelance camera. So we had a limit on them, and we thought we'd go to that limit if they were, good enough. And I always believe in what I call informal office polls, and one of them is, if something is playing and everyone gathers around and watches it, you kind of have a watch of the people and see how they're reacting, and you're probably going to get a similar reaction from the public.
Well, was there a more explicit debate in the newsroom though? Because these are pictures that get right inside the family's grief. They're compelling, but yeah, I presume it's the kind of thing you do talk about before you use them.
Talk about it. There wasn't a major discussion. It was a very brief discussion. I think we were all kind of coming to the same conclusion that they were pretty powerful pictures, and that the guy had said he didn't think the quality was that good, but the quality actually was really good. And we knew that there was possibly some concerns as to how far we should go, because it is a family's grief. We knew that by that stage. So I went and saw Mark Jennings, who's the head of news, and said, this stuff is really powerful, I think we should use it. I also think we should call Don Mann at the Warriors and make sure that the Warriors know, and that Don talks to the family so that the family know.
So the family knew you had them?
I left it with Don.
Did you wait for a response back from the Warriors?
No, I spoke directly to Don, because I know Don Mann quite well from working with him over the years. So I rang Don and said, hey look, it's awful what's happened. We're going to go pretty big on it. We've probably got about 7 or 8 minutes worth of coverage tonight, but we want to pay tribute to this kid, because everyone we've talked to says he was the real deal. He was going to be another Stacey, another Mark Graham, and a really good kid off the park as well.
So how do you prioritise a story like that? Because this is one death, however tragic. Meanwhile, no doubt you had news coming in from Gaza where there were many deaths.
Yeah.
How do you make that call?
That day it was a pretty strong day in Gaza as well, and all intentions had been to lead with Gaza. I can't remember the specific story from Gaza that day, but it had moved. And I think when the Sonny Fai story came in, my feeling was, personally, this is a very big local story. This story is going to mean a hell of a lot to New Zealanders. He was a New Zealand hero, and there was also that element of the story where it was a real tragedy that a lot of New Zealanders could relate to. So we decided to go for it because of the fact that it was a good local story.
What was the viewer response? Did any viewers
We
think
had a few
crossed the line?
complaints. Yeah, we had a few complaints. Some people thought it was intrusive, and I think there was possibly one shot where you don't see every shot before it goes to air, obviously, because everyone's working at 100 miles an hour. So often, you don't see a story before it goes to air. And I remember sitting downstairs as the news was playing, thinking, ooh, maybe that shot was a little bit much.
Yeah, it strikes me this is the kind of thing that's going to happen more and more, because we live in an era where everyone's walking around with a digital camera in their pocket. Do you think you're going to be dealing with these situations of footage coming in like this more often?
As far as covering the news, it's changed a hell of a lot recently, and I suppose we started seeing that with 9/11, whereas on day one you had so many pictures, and then day two there was just pictures from every conceivable angle were discovered of the first plane going into the building. And now we know that well, I've been in the newsroom maybe 15 years in TV, there's a lot more murders, a lot more crimes.
Now this cameraman came to you and solely to you. What would you do in a situation, and I'm sure this is going to arise at some time, where someone's trying to get a bidding war going between you and One News? How far do you go in that process?
Well, I can tell you of an exact situation, but this is going back a few years, and it was a freelance cameraman who's quite well known to a lot of people in the news industry. He turned up at a stabbing before anyone else had. He was neither working for TV1 nor TV3 at that point, and he rang us. I was doing the COS desk, which is the assignments desk at that time, and he said, I've got these pictures. I think the guy was shot, and might have been shot in the chest by a policeman or something. And he said, I've just gone into TVNZ and they're offering me so many hundred. And I said, well, this is going to be a big story. It's going to be front page of the Herald tomorrow. I'll offer you so many more hundred. And then he came back and said, TVNZ are offering me this. And then,
so how far do you go in chasing
well, I
that?
think at that time, I think we went well over 1,000, which was quite a lot for one set of pictures. I mean, it might have been 1,500, which was quite a lot at that point.
Do you think there's a danger that people get it into their heads that there's some money in this? If they see a tragedy and they've got their home video camera or their mobile phone, they think they might make some money out of this and maybe cross the line then?
Well, there's a hell of a difference between a professional cameraman shooting something and an AmCam person shooting something. Yeah, but normally, you know, if the pictures are good enough and we want to run them on the news, we feel we want the story, and, you know, it's either a story we believe people need to see, or we believe it's one of the strongest stories around that day, we'll usually pay them for it.
We do, though, live in an age where everyone's walking around with a digital camera in their pocket. Do you think there's a danger if people get the idea that that there's money in something they might be able to grab from a tragedy, that you know, things could go awry and that there'll be people crossing ethical lines?
Well, there are a hell of a lot more cameras around, and for us in the news industry, and makes things a lot easier in a way, because anything that happens, usually if there's a storm now, people are sending pictures into the website, they're emailing us them. There's so many different ways that people can communicate with us. People can send stuff on their phones, also with social networking sites. In the old days it used to be very hard to cover murders, you know, tragedies, things like this. But now, I remember with the Karen Aim story, the Taupo backpacker who was killed, there was, that day there was video pictures of her on her Facebook page, or Bebo page, or whichever it was, you know, skydiving, doing things like that. And they actually can really make a story much more powerful.
So, it's a changing world for news, isn't it?
Oh, there's much more access to vision, and yeah, it's a lot easier to cover these stories.
Well, Angus Gillies, thank you for your time. It's a fascinating issue. Few local journalists are as aware of the changes technology is bringing to the media as Richard McManus, the founder of Read Write Web, which was named Best Blog in last year's Qantas Media Awards. But as Simon Pound discovered, there's a lot more to it than blogging.
Welcome to Lower Hutt, famous for TVNZ's Avalon Studios, home of great telly like Dancing with the Stars since 1975. And also where you'll find the fish and chippery recently named the best in the country, So Fine Seafoods. But that's not all. Lower Hutt is also home to Richard McManus, the keeper of one of the most influential, up-to-date, cutting-edge and massive blogs in the world, Read Write Web. He has hundreds of thousands of regular readers, ad dollars flying in, and general blog mastery. He might just be the most famous Kiwi you've never heard of. RWW is a one-stop shop for web developments and trends.
I started the website in April 2003, and blogs were just coming on the scene at that point in time, and there was no money whatsoever in it. It was just something I did for enjoyment and to reach out to people and to network with people.
But how it's grown. While in New Zealand it's just him and his mum who does accounts, hi Mrs McManus. Around the world he has 10 odd staff, keeping up with web trends and developments 24/7. The site hovers around the top 10 in the world. That's right, the top 10 blogs in the whole world.
At this point in time we've got about 250,000 subscribers, and in terms of visitors to the site it's probably about 2 million page views per month at this point in time, but it's growing every month.
That is enormous, and it is pretty much all international traffic.
Statistics I always sort of bring out is that less than 1% of our readers are from New Zealand itself.
The stereotype of a blogger is a dude in his PJs, but while that may occasionally be true,
funnily enough, when I first get up in the morning, I pretty much head straight to the computer. So you could actually say that I am blogging in my pyjamas at that point in the day.
More seriously, he is an example of the way specialist blogging can add to journalism. His tech articles are now to be found in the newspaper of record.
Read Write Web stories are now showing up on the technology pages of the New York Times website. And that was a real thrill for myself and my writers as well, seeing our stories up there on the New York Times, alongside real journalism.
There are no bigger bickies than the New York Times. So here's to a Kiwi success story by Mrs McManus. Bye, Richard.
Simon Pound with that report. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, a chat about the state of journalism with Carole Duchateau, the award-winning journalist who is about to become a prime ministerial speechwriter.